Emma Clarkson was 19 the summer she took the night shift job at a Taco Bell just off the highway in Wellington Ridge, Ohio. A first-year student at Ohio State, she wanted to prove she could live on her own, pay her rent, and cover the cost of books without asking her parents for help. The Taco Bell was nothing special, just another fast food joint, but to Emma it meant independence. The building sat at the far end of a nearly abandoned strip mall. The old video rental shop, dollar store, and pay-by-hour gym had all closed years earlier, leaving the parking lot cracked with weeds and buzzing under uneven yellow lights. Her cousin Kelly had worked there the year before. She was the one who put in a word with the manager. The day Emma filled out paperwork, Kelly had leaned in close and said something strange. "You'll be fine. Just don't stay in the back too long. It gets weird back there sometimes," Emma had laughed. Kelly had always been dramatic. By mid-June, Emma had settled into the routine, 6 p.m. to close, mostly cleaning trays, wiping tables, and taking late-night orders from truckers or drunk college kids. The crew was small: Megan, the blunt but fair assistant manager; Jamal, the quiet dishwasher; and occasionally Darren, who preferred hiding in the back making tacos. The building had a break room that doubled as dry storage, a freezer, and a long, dim hallway leading to the back door. But there was one place Emma never liked going: the closet. It wasn't really a closet, more of a small utility alcove hidden behind a black plastic curtain. Inside were shelves of cleaning supplies, a mop sink, and a flickering overhead bulb that always took too long to hum to life. The air inside carried a damp, sweet smell, clinging to Emma's clothes whenever she stepped inside. And the worst part, the curtain. It swayed when no one touched it, like something unseen had just slipped inside. She avoided it when she could. But one Wednesday night in July, she couldn't. Megan sent her to grab bleach. As she pushed into the hall, Emma noticed the curtain was already half open, as if someone had just gone inside. She paused, heart ticking a little faster. "Hello?" she called, half joking. No answer. She brushed the curtain aside. The light stuttered awake and her breath caught in her throat. In the far corner, just beyond a stack of dusty cardboard boxes, sat a man. Pale blue hoodie, legs folded neatly, head tilted slightly to the side like he was listening to something only he could hear. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He just stared. Emma screamed and stumbled back, slamming into the shelf. A bottle of detergent hit the floor and burst, bleach stinging her nose. "Jamal! Megan!" They came running. Megan yanked the curtain open. Nothing. Boxes, bleach, mop bucket, no man. "I swear he was sitting right there." Emma's voice shook. Jamal shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe a shadow?" "Closet's creepy enough already," Megan shrugged. "You're tired. I thought I saw a rat in here once and almost cried." Don't sweat it, but Emma knew. She hadn't imagined the folds of that sweatshirt, the gleam of those eyes in the dim light. He hadn't even looked surprised when she found him, just calm, watching. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Megan had left early for a family emergency. Jamal was stuck at drive-thru with the headset on. Emma was alone, wiping down tables, when she noticed him. The man, same pale blue hoodie, sitting in the corner booth by the window, head tilted. No food, no drink, no tray. Her stomach dropped. She backed into the kitchen, whispering, "Jamal." But the headset drowned her out. She turned back. The booth was empty. Her hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped the rag. The next morning, she called Kelly. "Did anything weird ever happen to you when you worked here?" There was a pause, then softly, "You saw him, didn't you?" Emma's blood went cold. "Who?" "The guy in the corner." Kelly's voice cracked. "I used to see him too. Thought I was losing it." Kelly explained that before Taco Bell, the building was a diner in the 80s. A robbery happened there. A young man was shot and killed during a holdup. His body wasn't found until hours later. His name was Derek Matt. Emma searched the library archives and found a grainy clipping from 1987. "Local man killed in botched robbery at Hilltop Diner." The photo showed Derek, 22 years old, in a pale blue hoodie. Head tilted. Same faraway eyes. Her hands shook as she printed the article. After that, the activity escalated. The curtain in the back swayed constantly, even when no one was near. The soda machine poured on its own. Boxes toppled, but nothing ever broke. Emma saw him twice more in the lobby. Sometimes in dreams, she felt the weight of someone sitting at the edge of her bed, silent. Even Megan admitted one night, pale-faced, "I saw a figure in the freezer. Thought it was you. But when I turned, nothing." Emma began documenting everything. She even brought a disposable camera. When she developed it, one photo of the corner booth came back nearly blank, except for a faint blur shaped like a man. One night in late August, Emma stayed to close alone. She was scrubbing the bathroom when the lights flickered and died. Darkness swallowed her. Her phone screen lit up, and in the mirror she saw him, pale blue, sitting in the dining area, still, waiting. Emma bolted out the back door. She called police. When they arrived, the building was empty. But the back door camera caught something chilling. Emma running, and then, just before the feed cut, a blurry figure standing in the lobby staring at the lens. Emma quit the next morning. She never set foot in that Taco Bell again. Months later, the restaurant shut down. Corporate blamed mold and structural issues. A year later, the building was bulldozed. But Emma still dreams of him, still feels eyes in the corner of her room at night. And sometimes when she drives past the empty lot, she sees it, a flicker of pale blue in the corner of her vision. Sitting still, watching, waiting. Because sometimes the dead don't leave. Sometimes they just wait for someone new to notice them. James Carter was 21 when he landed the night shift at a Taco Bell in Tulsa. He wasn't thrilled about it. Fast food wasn't exactly glamorous, but it paid better than stacking shelves at Walmart. Plus, he needed to cover rent for his tiny one-bedroom apartment after his roommate bailed. The Taco Bell itself was an older building, the kind with faded purple and teal paint from the 90s, and a neon "Open Late" sign that buzzed like a dying insect. It sat on the edge of a half-empty strip mall with a gas station across the road and a liquor store next door. At night, the parking lot was nearly pitch black except for one flickering light near the dumpsters. James worked with two others most nights, Louise, who manned the grill, and Brenda, a shift manager in her 40s who chain-smoked during breaks. It wasn't a bad gig except for one thing, the bathroom. From the very first week, James hated it. Customers complained the light flickered constantly, and no matter how many times maintenance fixed it, the bulb would go out again in a day or two. Even worse, the mirror above the sink was warped, like the glass had melted slightly, bending faces into stretched, uncanny shapes. But the worst part was the feeling. Whenever James stepped inside, he felt watched, not just from behind, but from inside the mirror itself. At first, he brushed it off. Bad lighting, bad vibes, no big deal. Then came the first incident. It was a Tuesday night, nearly 2 a.m., when James ducked into the bathroom to wash grease off his hands. The place was empty, or so he thought. As he leaned over the sink, the light above him flickered hard, off, then on. And in the mirror, for a split second, he saw a woman. Long, stringy black hair, hollow eyes, a faded waitress uniform from another era. She was standing behind him. He spun around. Nothing. The stall door stood open, no feet beneath it. The air was still. But when he turned back, the mirror rippled slightly as if water had been dropped onto its surface. James bolted back to the kitchen, his chest tight. He didn't tell Louis or Brenda. He didn't want to sound crazy, but deep down, he knew what he saw. Over the next few weeks, the mirror became a kind of obsession. James tried to avoid it, but every time he went in, he caught glimpses, a shadow moving when he stood still. A pale hand pressed against the glass for just a moment before vanishing. Once, late at night, he swore he saw lips moving in the reflection, whispering words he couldn't hear. Finally, he broke. He told Brenda. To his surprise, she didn't laugh. She just lit another cigarette and said, "Yeah." She's been here a long time, James froze. You've seen her too? Brenda exhaled smoke. Not just me. This place used to be a diner back in the 70s. Some waitress got killed in the bathroom. Ex-boyfriend or something. They found her slumped under the sink, throat cut. They say she still looks in that mirror like she doesn't know she's dead. James's stomach churned. Brenda spoke like she was talking about the weather. Corporate replaced that mirror twice, but it always comes back warped, like the building doesn't want to let it go. The final straw came on a Friday night in October. The lobby was closed, only drive-through was open. Luis was on break. Brenda was outside smoking, and James went in to restock napkins in the bathroom. The light went out completely this time. Total darkness. He fumbled for his phone flashlight, but before he could turn it on, the mirror flickered, like it had its own faint glow. And in that dim shine, James saw her. The woman was crouched in the reflection, her head tilted, eyes sunken deep into black hollows. Her lips parted, and this time he heard it. A voice that didn't echo in the room, only in the glass. "Get out!" The smell of old copper and mildew filled his nose. The air grew icy, his breath fogging in the dark. He dropped the stack of napkins and staggered back, slamming into the stall door. The mirror pulsed once, twice, and her hand pressed against the inside of the glass. The surface bulged outward like she was trying to push through. James didn't wait. He ran out, leaving the bathroom lightless, the door swinging wide. The next morning, he called in sick. A week later, he quit. Brenda didn't ask why. She knew. 3 months later, the Taco Bell closed without warning. Rumors swirled. Plumbing issues, asbestos, unpaid taxes, but the locals said otherwise. They said it was the mirror. Some claim it was moved to another store. Others say it's still sitting in an abandoned warehouse, waiting for someone foolish enough to look too closely. James never found out. He moved to another city, another job. But to this day, he avoids mirrors in public bathrooms. Because sometimes, when the light flickers just right, he swears he sees her, standing behind him, waiting for him to look too long. And he knows if he ever does, she won't just stay in the glass. When Maria Alvarez got hired at a Taco Bell in Phoenix, she thought it would be a temporary gig. Just something to hold her over until she could save enough money to transfer colleges. The store itself was newly remodeled. Sleek digital menu boards, fresh paint, brighter lighting. But Maria quickly realized not everything about the place was new. It started with the time clock. The punch-in machine sat on the wall in the narrow hallway by the break room. Every shift, Maria would swipe her card and listen for the cheerful beep. Nothing unusual, except sometimes when she walked past the machine, it beeped on its own. At first, she thought it was a glitch. Maybe someone had left their card nearby. But then she noticed the screen. Every now and then it would flash the same name, Daniel R. Maria assumed Daniel was another employee. But when she asked around, nobody knew him. Not Brenda, the shift manager. Not Kyle, who'd worked there for 5 years. "We don't have a Daniel," Kyle said. "Never did." The first time Maria saw him, it was nearly 1:30 a.m. She was mopping the lobby while her coworker ran drive-through. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed someone moving past the hallway. A man. Tall. Slim. Dark uniform shirt. She called out, "Hey, we're closed up front." No response. She leaned her mop against the counter and followed the sound of faint footsteps into the break room. The door swung open, empty. But the air felt heavy, like someone had been standing there just seconds earlier. When she turned back toward the hall, her stomach dropped. The time clock screen was glowing. Clocked in, Daniel R., 1:37 a.m. Maria's hands went ice cold. She told Brenda the next day. Brenda stiffened, then muttered, "Don't joke about that." When Maria pressed, Brenda finally sighed. "There used to be a Daniel here, back in 2004. He worked nights, always volunteered for close. One night, he never went home. They found him in the freezer, collapsed. Heart gave out, Maria's skin prickled. And nobody talks about it?" Brenda shook her head. Corporate doesn't like us mentioning it. Bad for business, but sometimes, I swear he never clocked out. From then on, Maria noticed more. The freezer door would rattle even when latched. The headset at the drive-thru would crackle with static. And sometimes, in between the white noise, she'd hear a man's voice faintly say, "Orders up." One night, she left her jacket in the break room. When she went to grab it, she froze. Someone was sitting at the small metal table. A man in a Taco Bell cap, shoulders hunched, head down like he was staring at his hands. His name tag glinted faintly in the low light. She couldn't read it, but her chest knew the name before her brain did. Daniel. The fluorescent bulb flickered once. In that blink, he was gone. Her jacket was still draped across the chair. The last night Maria worked there, the store was short-staffed. She and Kyle stayed late to close. Around 3 a.m., Kyle went to take trash out back, leaving her alone. Maria was wiping down the soda machine when she heard it. Beep, beep, beep. The sound of the time clock, rapid, frantic. She rushed down the hall. The screen glowed bright, scrolling the same message over and over. Clocking out, error. Clocking out, error. Clocking out, error. Her heart thundered. She turned and froze. Daniel was standing at the end of the hall. Uniform neat, cap pulled low, skin gray and drawn. His lips moved, but no sound came out. His eyes were sunken, desperate. He lifted one hand slowly, pointing at the clock. Then the screen went black. The hallway light above her buzzed and popped, plunging her into darkness. Maria screamed and bolted out the back door, nearly knocking Kyle over. He demanded to know what happened, but she couldn't answer. She quit the next morning. Clock out. The Taco Bell is still there today. New faces behind the counter, new paint, new machines. But workers still whisper about the clock. Every so often, in the dead of night, it beeps. And on the screen, just for a second, a name appears. Daniel R. A man who never finished his shift. A man who still lingers in the break room, waiting for the day someone finally lets him clock out. By the summer of 2015, Jason Miller thought he had seen it all. He'd worked at the Taco Bell on Maple Street in Wichita for nearly 3 years, mostly on late-night shifts. The hours were brutal, but the paychecks kept his car running and his bills barely paid. The store sat just off the highway, in a quiet stretch of town where most businesses shut down before midnight. Their Taco Bell stayed open until 3 a.m., which meant most of their customers came from bars or long-haul truckers looking for cheap food. Jason knew the drill. Get through the drunken rush between 1 and 2, then clean up in silence until close. Simple. But one night in August, things weren't simple. It was around 2:40 a.m. Jason and a co-worker named Sarah were alone. The lobby was locked. The parking lot was empty except for Jason's beat-up Honda. The kitchen smelled of fryer oil and bleach as Sarah scrubbed the line. Jason, half asleep, manned the headset. The first sound was faint, a low crackle in his earpiece. Static. Then a voice. "Hello? Can I get something?" Jason straightened. He glanced at the security monitor for the drive-thru. The screen showed only the empty asphalt beneath the floodlight. No car, no customer. He tapped the mic. Drive-thru's open. Go ahead, silence. Then, 2 tacos, extra beef." Jason squinted at the screen. Still no headlights, no shadows, nothing. "Ma'am, can you pull forward?" The voice crackled again. "Thank you." His stomach tightened. There was no car. Sarah noticed his expression. "What's wrong?" Jason pointed at the monitor. "Somebody's ordering, but there's no one there." She rolled her eyes. "Probably interference. Headsets pick up weird radio stuff sometimes, but Jason couldn't shake the unease. He prepared the tacos anyway, slid them into a bag, and set it on the counter. Moments later, the window creaked open. A rush of cold air swept in, far colder than the humid Kansas night outside. Jason leaned out instinctively. The lane was empty. He shut the window fast, hands trembling. Sarah gave him a look but said nothing. 2 nights later, it happened again. This time, the order came around 3 a.m., right before close. Same voice, same static. "Can I get 2 tacos, extra beef?" Jason's pulse quickened. He watched the monitor. Again, nothing. But this time, as he listened, he heard something else. Under the woman's faint, broken words was a sound like breathing. Long, heavy, raspy breaths. He tore the headset off. Sarah frowned. "Don't tell me it's happening again." Jason just nodded. After that, Jason started asking around. An older employee, Marcus, finally gave him an answer. There was a wreck about 10 years ago. Woman pulled out of this drive-through, got T-boned by a truck. Died right in the lane, still holding her bag of tacos. Some say she never left. Jason laughed nervously, but Marcus didn't smile. "She always orders the same thing. 2 tacos, extra beef." By September, Jason dreaded closing shifts. The orders came almost every week, always at the same time, always when the lot was empty. And the details grew worse. Sometimes, when he leaned close to the monitor, he swore he saw movement in the shadows, like the faint outline of a person leaning toward the speaker box. Other times, the window fogged over from the cold, as if someone unseen was standing outside, breathing against the glass. Once, Sarah opened the window out of frustration. "If this is a prank, knock it off." The bag of tacos she was holding was yanked violently from her hands. She yelped and stumbled back. The bag hit the asphalt outside, but when Jason rushed to look, the lane was empty. The final night Jason ever worked there came in October. He was alone. Sarah had called out sick. It was 2:55 a.m. He'd almost made it through his shift when the headset crackled. 2 tacos, extra beef." Jason's skin prickled. He didn't respond. The voice came again, louder this time, more insistent. 2 tacos, extra beef." Jason pulled off the headset and threw it on the counter. But the sound didn't stop. The drive-through speaker outside was broadcasting the words now over and over, distorted and broken. 2 tacos, extra beef, 2 tacos, extra beef." The monitors flickered. For a brief moment, Jason saw her, pale face, dark hair matted with blood, slumped against the speaker box. Her mouth moved in sync with the order. Her hollow eyes locked on his. Jason staggered back, heart hammering. He grabbed his keys, left the store half-cleaned, and never came back. The Taco Bell on Maple Street still stands today. Employees whisper about the phantom order. Some shrug it off as static. Others refuse to work closing shifts. But every so often, late at night, when the parking lot is empty and the kitchen quiet, the headset crackles. And a voice, tired and broken, whispers through the static. 2 tacos, extra beef." When Chloe Martinez got hired at Taco Bell in San Bernardino, she wasn't scared of much. She had worked retail, late-night gas stations, even a sketchy liquor store where drunks sometimes picked fights. Taco Bell seemed tame by comparison. But there was one thing Chloe couldn't handle: the freezer. It wasn't just that it was cold. The door was heavy steel, the kind that slammed shut with a hollow clang. The small square window was fogged permanently, so you couldn't see who or what was inside unless you opened it. The first time Chloe stepped in, she noticed how sound died instantly, as if the walls swallowed every noise. The freezer scared her, and she wasn't alone. Every employee had a story. Sometimes you hear knocking when nobody's inside. The handle gets ice cold even when it's not supposed to. Once I heard someone breathing in there. Chloe laughed it off until she experienced it herself. Her first incident came during a closing shift in March. She went to restock tortillas. The freezer was empty except for her breath clouding in the air. She stacked the boxes quickly, eager to leave, when the door behind her slammed shut. Panic surged. She hadn't touched it. Chloe spun, heart pounding, and grabbed the handle. It wouldn't budge. Her chest tightened as frost crept across the window. Then faintly from the other side, she heard it. 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate, knock, knock, knock. Her scream fogged in the air. She yanked harder, and suddenly the handle gave way. She stumbled out into the hall, shivering, gasping. The kitchen was empty. Her co-worker, Luis, looked up from the fryer. "You okay?" Chloe didn't answer. She never mentioned the knocks. Over the next weeks, it happened again. The door would slam shut when she was alone. Frost formed in seconds on the window. Sometimes she heard faint whispers, low, muffled like someone speaking through water. One night, she swore she saw a shadow pass across the glass. Not her reflection, something else. Taller, broad-shouldered. She asked Luis about it. He grew pale. There was a guy. Back before you worked here, Raul. He was a closer like us. One night he went into the freezer room, but he didn't come out. Chloe frowned. What do you mean? Luis lowered his voice. They said he slipped, hit his head, got trapped when the door jammed. By the time anyone found him in the morning, he trailed off, shaking his head. They replaced the door, but Chloe didn't need him to finish. By April, the activity escalated. Boxes fell by themselves. The light inside flickered, though no one ever reported electrical problems. Chloe began having dreams, always the same. She stood inside the freezer, breath fogging, while someone large and unseen stood just behind her. She never turned around. She knew if she did, she wouldn't wake up. One night, closing alone, Chloe had no choice but to go in. The freezer door groaned as she pulled it open. She grabbed tortillas and cheese, trying not to look at the glass. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the box. Then a whisper, right behind her ear. You shouldn't be here. Chloe froze. Her breath thickened in front of her face, but another plume appeared beside it, larger, heavier. Not hers. She bolted. She shoved at the door, but it slammed shut before she reached it. She pounded on it, screaming as the whispers grew louder. The light flickered. A shadow moved against the wall. And then, knock, 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 from inside with her. When coworkers found her minutes later, Chloe was on the floor outside the freezer, shaking, her hands frostbitten where she'd clawed at the handle. She quit the next day. That Taco Bell still operates today. Employees keep the freezer stocked as quickly as possible. Nobody lingers. Nobody volunteers to close alone. And if you listen carefully, when the door slams shut at night, you can still hear it. Knock, knock, knock. Like Raul, still trapped inside, waiting for someone else to join him. Back in the summer of 2003, I was 17 and thought nothing could scare me. I had just gotten my first real job, closing shifts at a Taco Bell in Portland. Minimum wage, greasy uniforms, burnt fingertips from hot trays. But it felt like independence. The restaurant sat at the edge of town where the strip malls started to fade into neighborhoods. It wasn't a bad area, but after midnight it was quiet. Too quiet. The parking lot lights barely worked, buzzing dimly like dying fireflies. Most nights it was just me, the manager, and a cook. We'd serve the late-night rush of drunk kids, then clean until 2 a.m. After that, silence. The kind of silence where every clink of a tray echoed like a gunshot. But there was one part of the store everyone avoided, the corner booth by the window. The first time I noticed it, I was sweeping the lobby. The booth looked wrong. The vinyl cushions were faded, the table chipped, but that wasn't unusual. What bothered me was the reflection in the window. It showed a man sitting there. He wore a dark jacket, head tilted down like he was watching the parking lot. But when I turned, the booth was empty. I blinked hard, chalked it up to exhaustion, and kept sweeping. But the next night it happened again. Same reflection, same man. Still staring out the window, I mentioned it to my manager, Amy. She froze mid-sentence, then forced a laugh. Yeah, that's just the regular, she said, making air quotes. He comes and goes. What do you mean? I asked. Her smile slipped. Don't worry about it, just don't sit in that booth. Ever I thought she was joking. But she wasn't. Over the next weeks, things got worse. Sometimes I'd see condensation on the booth window, like someone had been breathing there. Once, when I wiped it with a rag, words smeared across the glass in shaky letters. Stay. Another night, as I was mopping, I caught the reflection again. Only this time, the man's head wasn't tilted toward the parking lot. He was staring directly at me. My chest tightened. I dropped the mop. When I turned, the booth was empty, again. But the seat cushion looked indented, as if someone had just stood up. I finally asked one of the cooks, an older guy named Henry. He sighed, lit a cigarette on break, and told me the truth. "Used to be a guy," he said. "Back when this place opened in the late 80s. Came in every night, sat in that booth, ordered the same thing, a bean burrito, black coffee. Real quiet, real polite." "What happened to him?" I asked. Henry exhaled smoke, eyes narrowing. "One night he never left. Heart attack. Died right there in that booth, staring out the window. Paramedics wheeled him out, but..." He tapped his ash. "Some say he never left." I felt my stomach drop. The last straw came in late August. We were closing, just me and Amy. I was wiping tables when I noticed it again, the reflection. Only this time the man wasn't sitting. He was standing behind me. I froze. Slowly I turned. The booth was empty, the lobby was empty, but my reflection in the window wasn't alone. A tall figure stood inches behind me, face shadowed, eyes glinting faintly in the neon glow. I spun around. Nothing. When I looked back at the glass, he was closer, right over my shoulder. Amy must have seen my face because she grabbed my arm hard. "Don't look at him," she hissed. "Just keep moving. He follows you if you acknowledge him." I didn't sleep that night, or the next. 2 weeks later, I quit. I never set foot in that Taco Bell again. Years later, I drove past the building, except it wasn't a Taco Bell anymore. It had been remodeled into a payday loan office. The booths were gone. The sign was different. But as I slowed at the stoplight, I glanced through the front window. And there he was, sitting in the corner, staring out, waiting. Back in 2010, I was a broke college sophomore pulling graveyard shifts at a Taco Bell off the highway in Albuquerque. It wasn't the nicest area. Half the lights in the parking lot didn't work. The building smelled like old fryer oil no matter how much bleach we used, and after midnight, most of our customers were either drunk, stoned, or both. I worked mostly with one other guy, Miguel, a cook who'd been there forever. He was older than me, kind of rough around the edges, but he worked fast and didn't talk much. That suited me just fine. Most nights were uneventful. But there was one shift, one customer that I'll never forget. It was October, close to Halloween, a chilly night with almost no traffic on the road. By 1:30 a.m., we were basically done. I was counting down my register, Miguel was mopping, and we both had our eyes on the clock. 15 more minutes and we'd be free. Then my drive-through headset crackled to life. Static first, then a voice. 2 tacos, no lettuce. The voice was low, broken, almost like the words were being forced out through an old radio. I pressed the talk button. Sorry, could you repeat that?" This time louder, sharper, almost angry. 2 tacos, no lettuce. That was it. No greeting, no thank you. Just the order, repeated word for word. I rang it up, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling creeping over me. When the car pulled forward, I saw it was an old, rusted sedan. The paint was peeling. The headlights were so dim I could barely see them, and the plates were too caked in grime to read. I bagged the tacos, walked to the window, and slid it open. That's when I noticed something was wrong. The driver wasn't looking at me. He wasn't even looking at the window. He was staring dead ahead, both hands gripping the steering wheel like he was holding on for dear life. His knuckles were bone white, his jaw locked tight. Back in 2010, I was a broke college sophomore pulling graveyard shifts at a Taco Bell off the highway in Albuquerque. It wasn't the nicest area. Half the lights in the parking lot didn't work. The building smelled like old fryer oil no matter how much bleach we used. And after midnight, most of our customers were either drunk, stoned, or both. I worked mostly with one other guy, Miguel, a cook who'd been there forever. He was older than me, kind of rough around the edges, but he worked fast and didn't talk much. That suited me just fine. Most nights were uneventful. But there was one shift, one customer that I'll never forget. It was October, close to Halloween, a chilly night with almost no traffic on the road. By 1:30 a.m., we were basically done. I was counting down my register. Miguel was mopping, and we both had our eyes on the clock. 15 more minutes and we'd be free. Then my drive-through headset crackled to life. Static first, then a voice. 2 tacos, no lettuce. The voice was low, broken, almost like the words were being forced out through an old radio. I pressed the talk button. Sorry, could you repeat that? This time louder, sharper, almost angry. 2 tacos. No lettuce, that was it. No greeting, no thank you. Just the order, repeated word for word. I rang it up, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling creeping over me. When the car pulled forward, I saw it was an old, rusted sedan. The paint was peeling, the headlights were so dim I could barely see them, and the plates were too caked in grime to read. I bagged the tacos, walked to the window, and slid it open. That's when I noticed something was wrong. The driver wasn't looking at me. He wasn't even looking at the window. He was staring dead ahead, both hands gripping the steering wheel like he was holding on for dear life. His knuckles were bone white, his jaw locked tight. Back in 2014, I was 22 and working night shifts at a Taco Bell in Houston. The store stayed open until 3 a.m., which meant most of my customers were either drunk, high, or desperate for food. I didn't mind the chaos. It made the hours go faster, but what happened one night in October still keeps me awake. It started like any other shift. By 2 a.m., the lobby was empty, the drive-thru was dead, and it was just me, a cook named Denise, and our manager. We were cleaning up, joking about who would get stuck scrubbing the bathrooms when the front door chimed. A woman walked in. She was tall, maybe mid-30s, dressed in a pale gray hoodie that looked damp, like she'd been caught in the rain. Her hair was long and dark, hanging over her face. She didn't say anything, just walked straight past us and into the women's restroom. We exchanged looks. Customers weren't supposed to come in that late. We had locked the doors 10 minutes earlier. How did she even get in? Denise muttered. We let it go for a few minutes, figuring she needed the restroom before heading out. But after 10 minutes, then 15, the door never opened. Finally, the manager sent me to check. I knocked. "Ma'am, we're closing soon." No response. I knocked again, louder this time. "Ma'am, you okay in there?" Nothing, just silence. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The restroom smelled faintly of bleach, the light flickering overhead. One stall door was closed, the far one. I bent down, looking under the divider. There were feet, pale, bare feet, toes pointed toward the floor. "Ma'am?" My voice cracked. Still no answer. I knocked lightly on the stall. The sound echoed too loudly in the empty restroom. My gut twisted. That's when I noticed something strange. The feet weren't moving, at all. I bolted back into the lobby, breathless. She's not answering, I think. But when the manager came with me to check, the stall was empty. No feet, no woman, just a locked door hanging slightly ajar. I swore I had seen her. Denise swore she had seen her walk in. But there was no trace. We tried to laugh it off, but the night only got stranger. While wiping down the counters, I glanced toward the glass window by the lobby and froze. The woman in the gray hoodie was standing outside, her face pressed against the glass. Her hair covered most of her face, but her mouth was visible, stretched into a wide, unnatural grin. I screamed. Denise dropped a tray. The manager spun around, but the window was empty. No woman, no footprints in the dew on the sidewalk. Nothing. We closed in record time that night. None of us wanted to be there longer than necessary. But as I was locking the front door, I heard it, the faint creak of the restroom stall swinging shut. When I turned back, the lobby lights flickered. For a split second, I saw her reflection in the window again, standing behind me, hair hanging over her face. The lights blinked again, and she was gone. 2 weeks later, I quit. Denise quit a month after that. The manager stayed on, but even he admitted he avoided the restrooms at night. Years later, I drove past that Taco Bell. It had been remodeled, painted bright purple, everything brand new. But as I glanced in the front window, I could have sworn I saw her again. The woman in gray. standing in the corner booth, watching.